My name is Davis Wardwell. I'm 18
My
years
name's
old.
Lisa
My name is
Hannon.
Noah Blunt. I'm the student pastor here
Trio
at Westside.
Quinn. I'm actually Charlie's cousin.
David Thomas, here with Charlie.
Austin Gregory. Thank you for having
My
me.
name is Donovan
My name is
Jones.
Micah Aver. I'm a student at Lounge High
All
School.
right. Well, Mr. Charlie, you're going to lead us out here tonight on your Young Minds podcast.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad to have Cody back with us today. Man, it's been quite a while, bro, since we last talked. I think when we were talking about it before, we what was it? For the 2-year anniversary, I think was the last time we talked on here anyway. But dude, I'm glad to have you back on, bro.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're having me back on.
Yeah, man. I mean, because I was, every time I think when me and Donovan talk and when me and you talk, like we always have I'm always thinking about that. But I guess that era of when we all started recording, like that was such a crazy time when we all recorded at one point. And I always think about that just because, like, what was that, like 23, 22, something like that? We all, like, had an episode come out one week, and I thought that was the craziest thing. I was
I
like, no
think
way.
things were moving pretty fast then because we were,
They were.
I mean, we all started a podcast and then we were doing the underground Christian music
Yes.
stuff. And
Yeah.
it was a lot. And luckily I had a lot more time then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a lot, dude. We started doing a lot really in like a short amount of time.
We did. And then also I remember the On Fire stuff, that was an extension of the underground,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, the other day, I think Donovan, like, he went on and, like, commented, like, on his video for something, like, through that account. And I was like, man, I didn't even know that account existed still. It's like, it's still there on YouTube. But those videos are still there. No way. And, like, I went back and just saw the title of the first one. And, it was the one we were talking about, why would you have milk in, like, schools for your, your school lunches and stuff and all that. And I was like, bro, oh my gosh. But yeah, that was a crazy time. And there's a part of me that's like, man, I wish it could still be like that. But we all got busy and we're doing different things, which is, you can get into here now in a sec. But, like, you've been busy, haven't you? Like, different career path, things like that. And I can't remember. Did you have your? I can't remember if the last time we talked. Have you already had your? You had 2 kids. Or if you only had the one, I don't remember. But
Yeah, so
it's
we've got 2 daughters now.
yep.
The youngest one, she'll be 2 in
That's crazy,
at the end of September. Yeah, so I mean, time's going fast, dude.
dude. Honestly, has it been that long already? Like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah,
bro, that's crazy, man.
I know.
And like I said, you had a different career path, which, I mean, we're praying for you on that, because I know that's always scary to jump into.
Yeah.
When you've done something for so long and then, you have to pivot, which, I mean, I know that, when we talked before, it's there might be some similarities, but still, it's like different people, different everything, right? But,
Yeah.
I hope that this will be better for you and your family in the long run, though, in terms of, like, so
Yeah,
it'll be good for sure.
I appreciate that. And the cool thing is, though, so I'll be jumping into a new career, but here in about, 6 or 7 years, I'll be able to retire from one. And
Yeah.
so I'll be 38 years old, retired from a full-time career in one, and then halfway through another one. So
That is so good. That's crazy. Man.
excited.
That's good, bro. But if you've read the title, we're going to be talking about isolation as a Christian. Cody's gone through that a pretty good bit, and I've had some friends that have done the same thing. And to start off, man, like, and I don't mean like to be blunt about this, but like, why isolate yourself like that? Because this is more of an episode for me to learn, because I don't really understand it. So, like, in your head, why were you thinking I need to isolate myself instead of, like, talk to people, talk to God? Like, what was your thought process there when you're going through it?
So I know isolation happens a little differently for everybody. For me specifically, it happened because a lot of life changes were happening at once. I think a few years back I took on more than I could handle, and I put myself in positions of like obligations to, saying yes to a lot of things, right? And when I realized I was carrying all this weight and I couldn't carry it anymore, I kind of felt ashamed that I got to a point where I was like, I really don't want to do all this at once, you know.
Yep.
And I felt bad, especially for the people that were involved with me, and so you know, and I guess I'm talking in reference to just the past few years, that kind of isolation that I did. But I've kind of always had seasons of isolation, and throughout my life.
Yeah.
And the common denominator is, it's more so a me problem in the sense of like, I just, you know, I find it easier to withdraw. Or I found it easier to withdraw because I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to feel like I'm burdening anybody with my issues. Cause I think that's one of the biggest problems for me was I felt like I was burdening people and people would look at me and be like, dude, this guy's a crybaby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I bucked up and I just did what I had to do, and I just kind of cut people off. It just made things easier that way for me, which I found out obviously is not a productive way of handling things. So,
well, because then I mean, and, you know, just talking about my experience, I remember it. Like I remember it, you know, from those few years ago. I remember. You know, I remember I would text you and I'm like, what's going on with it? Like, I was like, I mean, you'd have people worried about you. And, you know, when that's a blessing, I would say. But, you know, like, and what's going on, you know, because I mean, I think around the same time, I had a friend that started to do that himself. And I was like, I'm seeing the same patterns in both of them. And I don't know, like, how to, you know, like, because also, too, I'm the kind of person that tries to help somebody and fix their problem. But I'm like, I don't, you know, I didn't know what to do in that point, you know, except for just to message you or message out of the person, whatever. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I was like, well, all I can, you know, cause in that situation, I was like, all we can do is pray for them, you know. And I think it's the best thing, you know, you can do, you know. But man, I'm glad you're not in that season right now anymore. And like, I know that, or, and I can't remember like a tribe you're part of, like you're a part of that men's group, right? That helps with that, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah. And shout out to Men's Alliance. Yeah, so I lead a tribe here where I live, and it helps a lot because and it helps more than I think I realized even at the beginning. Because at the beginning it was if you know the story about how I found Men's Alliance, or well, they found me really. We had kind of followed each other on social media for a while with my Of Sound Mind page, and I followed them, but I didn't really like look into their page. I didn't really think anything of it. Well, the owner, the founder of it, David Mills, he reached out to me, and because I was doing the podcast at that time, and he said, "Hey, could we come on your podcast and just tell your listeners about Men's Alliance?" Well, in preparation for the conversation, I dove deep into Men's Alliance, their website, and I was like, it was a weird thing because at that time I was feeling kind of isolated just in my own world, right? Like I had all these I had friends online and stuff that I could talk to, but like in my life, I didn't really have a men's group. I was trying to find a men's group, and I was like, these guys work out and then sit around a fire and talk about Jesus. Like that's dope. I want to do this.
Oh yeah.
It turns out there was one close to my house. I mean, kind of close. It was like almost an hour away. But I made the drive for a few months. And of course I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But I need something a little closer to home because we had a young child. Our oldest at the time, she was pretty young. And, you know, being gone from the house for 2 hours for my wife to handle the baby at night for bedtime was rough. So I started one close to where we live. And that helped out a lot. Yeah. But as time has gone on, I've realized how important it really is for me to go to that even now each week, because it happens a lot, right? Like the day will come and I'm like, man, I really don't want, like I'm tired, and you know, I know that whoever's running the workout is just going to annihilate us, and like it's time that you got to take away. But when you get there and then you're there and you're like, okay, like I needed to be here. This is good. Even if the conversation is seemingly insignificant, right? Like you're just around dudes and who love Jesus and who care about you and who care about each other, and we're just talking about stuff that's important to us, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so even that minor, that minor reset throughout each week in the middle of the week, right? It makes a huge difference when it comes to
I bet.
your mental, just all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Praise God. And I, talking about like not, that feeling of if you're tired or whatever in the week and you're just like, do I want to go? I think we all get the same feeling, but about church sometimes, like on Wednesday nights, right? Or whatever, your day is, whatever you go.
yeah.
But, once you're there, you're like, man, I needed this,
Mm-hmm.
and that thought of that you didn't need to go was probably the devil going, you can just skip a day. Like you'll be all right. Like you're fine.
Yeah.
But, in reality, like, it's it's so refreshing. Like, I know that when I was in, high school still, there'd be times where I would just have, like, it would just feel like a long day. And I was like, gosh, and I was just kind of in a grumpy mood. Even my mom could tell it. And she's like, what's wrong with you? And so I would, I would go to church and I was just like, and then I would come out and she was like, man, you needed that, didn't you? I was like, yeah, I did, and so, and that's a big part of, I think, just Christianity as a whole. We need to be around people and have community, right? Like, and it was a pastor here on, at my church. He said that there is no solo Christianity, and it fits just perfectly for this episode. I've said it a bunch, but it's the truth. Like, we cannot do this by ourselves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we can't isolate ourselves, and because like, and I get like the whole not wanting to burden somebody. Like, I understand that because I think as guys too, we try to fix our own problems, right? Or fix the problem without asking for help. But no, it's often better if we just ask for help. It
Yeah.
is. Like, and I've had to learn that as we've gotten older. Like, we have to ask for help,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And I always use the example of a lone wolf, right? Like a lone wolf these days, these guys like to say they're lone wolves because it's mysterious and it's cool and it's like, I'm better by myself. But if you really look at like a lone wolf in the wild, a lone wolf is malnourished. They die way sooner than they would without a pack. Um, because the wolves need each other to take down large prey. They need each other to keep warm. Like all these things, wolves need. They need each other to protect
Right.
each other, to help with hunting. And so the lone wolf is weak and malnourished and dies way sooner. So I always like to think about that
That
when
is
thinking.
good. Yeah. Like, and and I was thinking on it, I mean, I could be so wrong, but I feel like in terms of like people like realizing we need like each other and to have community and stuff, I feel like that's like shifting a little bit from like, so like, the younger generations are like figuring that out faster than like, say, like older generations did. Cause they were kind of like, oh, like we're going to do this on our own. Like, and they're kind of like, they have that tough exterior, like, yeah, we did this and that, we did it our own, like,
Mm-hmm.
and, we just, hey, if that's how you live, great, and whatever. And it worked for you. Awesome. But, I think honestly, I mean, maybe it just has to do with, I don't know, with how things have changed and stuff, that we've realized faster that we need each other. Because we're all going through the same thing. It's just we're going through life together. It's just looks a little bit different for everybody. Like
Mm-hmm.
one example I can give, and I know you remember this well, is when I went to that hurricane, or the second one, when I went to the second hurricane, right? We were all in the same situation, the same boat. We were all in the same situation around here, and we all came together as a community. And it didn't matter, like it didn't matter race, it didn't matter what this or whatever. It just we came together as a community and helped each other, right? Because we
Mm-hmm.
needed it. And it makes me think of like situations like that. Why can't we be like that all the time, right? Like it has to be, or no, it has to be when a hurricane hits or when a tragedy happens. Like I just wish that we could do it more often, or have that mindset more often. And really seek people out and see where they're at. Because I mean, we have no idea where people are mentally. If you just walk right by them on the street.
Yeah.
And I say these things saying that I need to work on that too. Like, I'm not perfect on that either, but
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Me neither.
yeah, I I really, and I wish I would have had more time in it, like in terms of like ministering to people. But like, I think about, and I tell people that are still in high school, I say, you've got that mission field right there. And like, there's tons of people that say they're isolated, they're alone, whatever. Be their friend. Like, reach out to
Mhm.
them. And, even if you don't directly share the gospel with them, I mean, yes, do. But if you don't, show the love of Jesus through, through your actions.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I mean, I'm just thinking like, because I mean, I will say, I think there's a lot more, I mean, from what I can tell, there's a lot more depression, a lot more isolation, a lot more this and that in my generation and stuff that we have to work through. I don't know if that has to do with social media and stuff. It probably does. Like, how our parents are like, it is that dang phone. It probably is that dang phone. Let's be real. I, you know, um, but it's so weird because I saw something that said that we have the world at our fingertips, but yet we're more alone than we ever could be. Like, I mean, and it's the truth. Like,
Yeah.
we have this right here in our fingertips, but yet
And to
a
hit
lot of
on
us are
something
alone.
specific about the social media thing or the phones in general is
Mm-hmm.
it's happening to the younger generation, but it also is happening to, I think, my generation as well, to some of us.
Yeah.
There is an over reliance on technology, social media, whatever, for connection instead of in person
Mm-hmm.
connect. Right, like
Right.
there is some sense of connection or belonging when you're on social media. There's people that have similar opinions to you. There's funny stuff. Like you have a sense of belonging there, but it's so empty and
Right.
so like it's just so hollow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even compare to in person connection with people. So,
No. I
but
mean,
I
I
think
know
we
you can say that with your men's group too. Like,
yeah,
just yeah. I mean,
and
because
but
you're
we've
meeting with
trained
them in
ourselves.
person.
Yeah, we've trained ourselves to think that like this is the peak of my connection with people, even if it's subconscious, right? We're not probably telling ourselves that, but we feel a sense of connection and belonging to these people, and it's so empty.
Yeah. And even doing this, like, it's like the only way that I can do these with like you guys and Donovan and all is like through, like online, right? Well, the day that me and Donovan and Jake all met each other, it felt so different. It was
Hmm.
wild on, because I mean, he's physically in front of me. There's that human connection right there. He's not
Yeah,
just in a screen on, and I mean, sure, I was ecstatic as I'll get out. Why wouldn't I be?
right.
But it was really, really cool, to have that connection. Like I could shake his hand, and like ask him how he was from across the room. It's not just, like a text message or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, which I mean, I think that, and we still, I mean, some people do, but not everybody knows the value of that. They have not
Hmm.
figured it out. Like, they're like, oh, well, yeah, let's meet him in person. It's like, oh, what if I just like video chatted you? I don't feel like, whatever. Like, I mean, I would love to, meet him in person with as many people as I could and talk with them. I mean, that's so much better. Like, I think that's why, I love doing the podcast like I do is because I get to share a moment with people in person
Hmm.
and for the majority of the time, and be face to face with them and hear what they have to say. Um, and like it's like so refreshing. Like people ask me like, well, what do you get out of it? I'm like, well, I get to like see how Jesus works in people. Like, and I see them like excited in front of like it's in my face. Like I see like them light up, like and it's like it's an experience that a lot of people wouldn't be able to see that I get to see almost every week or multiple times a week, depending on my schedule. And and like, well, people are like, "Or you don't get paid for them?" I'm like, not yet. I mean, there's just times that I'm like, man, I wish I did, but I get so much more out of it.
Yeah.
Just seeing that human connection, right? And I
Hmm.
mean, I make those connections afterwards. There's people that I've interviewed that um that I didn't really know that well, and then they didn't really talk to me that much. But then I interviewed them, and then bam, like we're talking a pretty good bit, like all the time, which is really really cool. Like it's so as long I feel like if we that's one thing we need to do, establish more in person human connections when you can. Like
Right.
us is a different story, of course, but like and not to say that you can't make a friendship like we did, because I mean we did, but human connection like in person is always better than you know over the phone any day.
Yeah, and it's not to demonize the phone or social media. Like it's obviously has so many benefits, right? We've met each other through social media, and sometimes it's okay to and I know it's kind of taboo to say this, but it's okay to disassociate for a little bit. But when it becomes your main source of fulfillment or connection with people, that's when it becomes a problem, right?
Right.
But there are great things about social media, and that's just the world we live in today. So why not take advantage of it, right? But you still have to have people that you can be around and go to outside of that, with an in-person connection, who can hold you accountable, who can ask you how you're doing. You can tell them all sorts of things. You can, like, that is more important than your connection with people on social media, right? So
100%, bro.
Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you too, because you brought it up with accountability. Do you think your accountability partners, like the ones you have, do you think that like that's a deeper connection than like, like say other friends that you have? Like it's a lot deeper. Like, because I mean, for me it is. This is why I was asking. Like,
well, sure.
Do you think it's
Sure, because you're airing out some of your dirty laundry to these people, right? Like they know a side of you that nobody else does.
Right.
When it comes to whatever you're sharing with them, right? Like, and it's deep stuff. Hey, I'm struggling with this. Hey, I've thought about this. Hey, like these people know you on a level that most people probably never will know you.
Right.
And so I think that there's a huge difference there as far as being connected to that person. Is a lot deeper.
Yeah. And and I've even seen it. So it's really interesting because like, I've got a best friend and I've got an accountability partner. Like, and I'm like really close with each of them. But like and I tell like they pretty much know the same stuff. But yeah, even though they know the same things, the friendship's still different. Like, it's just a different vibe. It's just, the way that we interact in things, because like, we know, like me and the accountability partner, we know that we're friends, but also we have to take this seriously. Cause like we kind of like, we're kind of tied to that in a way. Like, we have to, it's like, and I tell people like when they go to find an accountability partner or partners, whatever, it just works better for me if it's one, cause like less leaks out. Right. But it's, for me, it's like, you have to take that commitment. I mean, and we did. Like, it took me a few tries to like find somebody that actually would to do that. Because I mean, I'm being honest. I don't know about you, but I've had a few like I guess I don't want to say failed attempts, but I've asked people, hey, do you want to hold each other accountable? And like I was the one always doing it, and like they weren't pulling their weight, and you're gonna feel that, of course, and and how important that's been to like. I mean, people don't even realize how important that's been just for me to keep the podcast going and me just like to kind of air out my week. That is so important because like I've realized that, and this is the truth. Unfortunately, as you get older, more and more stuff it starts to get thrown at you. That's just life. But
yeah,
and you need those people that you can rely on and talk to.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, yeah, and it is hard for some people because, especially if somebody's listening that doesn't have somebody like that in their life.
Yeah.
What I think we try to do is we just kind of wait for somebody like that to fall into our lap, right? But what a lot of us fail to realize is a relationship like that and a trust like that requires a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So, like it requires. I mean, you think about the first time you meet somebody, you're pretty pretty generalized with the things that you tell them, right? Like you may tell them some things you're interested in, but you're not jumping straight into stuff that you struggle with, right? And so after prolonged conversations and hanging out with each other, I mean, this takes weeks, months, sometimes years, for you to establish trust with them and for them to establish trust with you. Now, once that relationship is built and that trust is there, then the real conversations can start happening. But like for these people that are just like, well, I have nobody in my life, and that's lonely and that's hard, and I get that, but you've got to be proactive. You've got to go out. You've got to get into church. You got to get into groups and you know, these people won't just come to you. You've got to find these people and build these relationships, right?
Yeah.
So for people that are listening that don't have people like that and are struggling with that, you got to start with being active. Like you
Yeah.
gotta get out there and you gotta find people.
And
However that may
that's
look.
what I said. Sorry if I interrupted you, but that
No,
was
you're
one
good.
thing I said to somebody that they were going back off to college, after the
Hmm.
summer, and I said, "What's one of the first? I'm going to challenge you." I said, "What's one of the first things I want you to do when you get back?" And he's like, "Find an accountability partner." I was like, "Bingo!" And just the other day he just texted me and said he did, and I was like, "Praise God! Look at that!" Like so you have to be proactive in finding that person. Like, and I will tell you this, talking about getting into church, right? I feel like there's going to be, especially, of course, it depends on the size and everything, but there's got to be somebody that feels the way you do, like and that they feel that they need somebody to reach out to and things. I mean, especially in a church as big as mine, it's got like 1,000 members in it.
Hmm.
Somebody's going to feel the same way as you do. Like, I mean, even in small churches, there's got to be somebody like that, And so,
Oh,
I mean, of course, pray on who that's going to be. Um, but if you're praying for it and you're obviously actively wanting it, then I think God would, God will reveal whoever that person is to you.
yeah.
100%. And I mean, it's crazy because I won't really say who it is, but for mine, we've been talking for not even a year yet, right? Like we talk every week and we ask each other to read every day and we're checking in on that stuff. And now I'm gonna be one of his groomsmen at his wedding. Like that's cool. It's like that's really neat. Like
Mhm.
and just to establish that connection like that, it's something special. Like I couldn't, I was telling my friend that just found his, I was like, I can't describe to you what this is like because it's different than ours. It's a different friendship than ours, but not that I don't cherish ours, but it's just both are really different. And
Mhm.
you'll see that once you have your accountability partner that you're. I think, and at least for me, it's a lot more like the mature side. Like, of course, we have, we laugh and have jokes and stuff, but like, it's a lot more on the mature side of, because of what the friendship is built off of,
Mhm.
right? It was built off of one of us confessing, "Hey, I need your help, like bad,"
Yeah.
And so I think there's a, underlying like maturity in there,
Mhm.
that's there. Of course, we laugh and have fun, but it's, that's the thing I think I was going to say as well. And I mean, it might be different for everybody, but for me, the person that when I was trying to find somebody for an accountability partner, I didn't know them like all that well. Like I knew them somewhat, like they had been to, I was a part of the group for a D now, but like I didn't know them a whole lot. But I could see like something was different about them, and I texted him one day, and that's what then we decided to become accountability partners, and then we built our friendship off of that. It wasn't like a pre-existing friendship, and then we just kind of built it off even more. And that's why I think in the past it didn't work for me is because me and these other people, we already had like kind of just a friendship, like not really a mature one, whatever. And that's why it didn't work. Now that's just my experience. It might be different for you or for anybody else listening. Um, but I do think that kind of helps when you're able to
Mhm.
build that from the ground up based um, off that maturity, and what you talked about from the get go, which I can, just thinking about that, I can think about that night too, which that's crazy. And I needed it
Yeah.
for sure. I'll tell you that much,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I've, definitely thought about it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Like, yeah,
well, yeah, because I mean, you got to bring that stuff to the light. You
you do.
can't hide it.
Yeah.
You can't like the more you suppress it and the longer you wait to talk about it with somebody,
Hmm.
it's gonna just continue to eat you alive. It's gonna,
Hmm.
poison and it starts to poison every aspect of your life, right? Because
Hmm.
a lot of things come with that shame, anger, and not the good kind, right? Like
Right.
um, you start to feel embarrassed. Just all sorts of anxiety, depression. With prolonged, disconnection,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's pretty bad. So.
Yeah. And I mean, you really have to, you have to watch for that. I mean, that's why the accountability partner is so important. And I remember when I was like, going through the church when I first, got saved and everything, of course, I didn't really understand much and all that. And then I started hearing about that and I was like, why is it so important? And then just a few years later, I found out pretty quickly, why that is so important. And, I look forward to that day when we talk every week. Like that's like when I think we've changed it now, but I used to, we'd get up in the morning and I would talk to him. I don't, if I'm not, I'll be honest, I don't get up for much. Like, okay, like I'm gonna sleep in if I can, but
Yeah.
but that was something that I looked forward to and I wanted to do. And so I got up and I talked to him, and we would just talk about life. Like sometimes it'd be a lot deeper than some days, and sometimes it would just be lighthearted. Like and it's every conversation is just like I've never had a bad one. Like which is great. And
Yeah.
and it goes back to that human connection and not feeling isolated. You need those people. I mean, you do. I mean, I know we keep saying it, but it's just the truth. I mean, and I think if you haven't realized it by now, you'll realize it eventually. Like when you hit my age or Cody's age, you'll realize, man, I need people right now. Like, I mean, because, and it's weird because, you don't want to, so once you find those people, you don't want to push them away either, because like you can do that and you have to be really careful about it, but just the other day I was, and this made me feel really good because I don't know about you, Cody, but sometimes I feel like I'm the one that's like the most like this checking on people, like instead of the other way around. And so like the other day I had somebody message me and ask me about like if I was doing all right, and then like that was nice, like so and that's another thing, just I would say get in the habit of doing that, check on people and see how they're doing, things like that, because I mean it means a lot, and you have no idea where somebody's at in their headspace. And just that one message or whatever, or a phone call, whatever, or meeting up in person, like that's the best thing. That could change their whole outlook on their day or their week or whatever, so just being a good person, just being a good friend, and, and being there for somebody, I think that means the world. I mean, I know it does to me. So,
No, that's a really good point, dude. I'm guilty of not reaching out to certain people that I've fostered good relationships with, right? Because, and it's not necessarily anything malicious. Like, it's not that I don't care. I think it's easy to get lost in time and just kind of like, days, weeks go by, you haven't talked to this person, and it's just because you're just going through the motions, and that's easy to do. That's an easy thing to fall into. But I think, to your point, making a cognitive, like making it a point, hey, even if it's once a week, like I need to reach out to these guys, make sure they're okay, or just ask them how they're doing. I mean, maybe they're not struggling or anything. Maybe it's just nice for them to hear from me, or vice versa. So being intentional with that is huge, because you can't just expect all these people to come flocking to you asking you how you're doing, right? You've got to also maintain that relationship and put in the work as well. Because I feel like I had a really big problem with that, right? Like I'd be all poopy pants because nobody would reach out to me, but I'm also not reaching out to these people, and so it's easy to fall into that, but you got to fight.
Yeah. I mean, you do. And, I think it like, and what I will say, what comes with that, and, if you do start doing this, you have to be careful. And I'm not saying like, oh, this is a bad thing, because it's really cool. Is that people will take notice of that, and they'll start like just calling you like on a random night, like, hey, you got a minute to talk? Like, because I mean, I've had that happen way more this year than any other year. Like people will just, and it's people that I haven't really talked to. I mean, I've talked to them, but they might have moved, or like they're, on different paths or whatever. And they just call me because they want to talk about something. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Like, that's neat. Like, should I pursue a, career in counseling or something? That's neat. And, but I will say though, because I know somebody that is a counselor at my church, for just those few people that I've talked to, it weighs on you when you hear their situations, because I mean, I don't know how, like, it's like, man, somebody's going through this and that and the other, and then you sit there and go, why was I complaining? Like, they have a way worse time going on. Like, I might have like stubbed my toe, but like, today, but like somebody just like, lost somebody, in a accident or something today. Like, and I know that like that's kind of a cliche thing. Like everybody says, well, oh, it always could be worse. Well, yeah, it always could be worse. You
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that like somebody like maybe right beside you is going through something way worse, and we just have to be attentive about that. Again, like we said, check on them, and just see how they're doing. Even if they're not having a bad day, just see how they're doing.
Yeah.
I will say this though, there's people that I've checked in on, and they just kind of give me a kind of a good, how's it like? I'm doing all right. Like, don't give me that dry response. I'm joking, but like, give me something a little bit more.
Right.
Like, because I mean, because I know that especially guys, we'll sit there and it's like, yeah, we're doing all right, but in reality, you're not. We're not gonna, because we don't want to be that burden, like you said earlier, or and I mean, because I felt that, like, you don't want to, bother people with your own issues, like, because they, like, and at least in my brain, people see me as the person that kind of just easy going, don't really have much going, like, many issues going on like that, and I don't want, I guess people to think that I do or something, so you don't want them to be bothered by it or something, but in reality, they want to help you, you just have to reach out,
Mm-hmm.
at least that's what I think. I hope people want to help, would help you, but
Right.
not everybody would. But if, especially in your church, find those people,
Mm-hmm.
or in a men's group, or whatever. Or, if you're a woman watching this, in a women's group, like it goes the same way. And that's what the one thing, so doing these deep dives that I've always wondered is like, cause I don't have, because I am a guy, so I don't understand the women aspect of it. Maybe one day I need to go back through and do all these deep dives, but like with like a woman and see how it affects them, because I have no idea. It's like, like I want to help all people in all ages, but I'm like, I don't know. It's like I have no like earthly idea about how this, because I mean, of course it would be different for everybody, right? And I have no idea how it affects people. Like I know how it affects guys, but not, not women. And like I feel like when I do these, sometimes I'm like, I hope it helps them as much as it helps, guys on one end. And it might. Like I have no idea. But who knows? Might have to do all of them again and just see what happens.
And I'm sure there's significant differences between men and women in certain areas when it comes to isolation. But I think the dangers of isolation, there's a few that are pretty like cut and dry for everybody.
Yep.
A big one is we're more vulnerable to temptation without accountability, right? So like Satan loves it when we're isolated. Now, I don't want to take over your questions or anything, but I do want to talk about the difference between isolation and solitude.
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
But first, with isolation, Satan's got you right where he wants you. He's got you alone in your thoughts. You're like I said, you're vulnerable to temptation. Your thinking is distorted. Right? Like isolation, Satan can feed lies about your identity, your worth. And so you fester in these things when you don't have an accountability partner or somebody who is... and now a key thing here with the isolation thing, when we're talking about connection with people and accountability partners, it is important to ensure that they also are a follower of Christ. Right?
Yes.
And not to say that non-Christian friends can't still fulfill some kind of like being around other people, right? But you have to have people in your life that are also pursuing Christ, that understand God's word, that are going to encourage you and question some of your actions, right? If you don't have friends that are telling you that what you're doing, hey, no, not cool, what you're doing is wrong or whatever, if you don't have those people in your life, you need to get them. Because that's also going to be an important aspect in your growth, right? Spiritual growth, your growth as a person. But to talk about solitude and versus isolation, so solitude, because when we say you need to be around other people, isolation is bad. We're not saying that alone time also isn't important, right?
Right.
Solitude is more so. You're at your house, right? You're death scrolling, right? Like you're just doing whatever you fill your extra time with at the end of the day. That's also important time, right? For you to just kind of reset, be by yourself, But what you do with that time every single day, I mean, if you just come home and you just sink into the couch and you just watch TV or you're on your phone the rest of the evening until you go to bed or eat dinner or whatever, like you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your time significantly. So that solitude part, it's mostly just purposeful time with God in prayer, even just rest, renewal, right? Like it's life-giving. When you start to find yourself out of solitude into isolation is when it starts to affect you in really, really bad ways, right? You're withdrawing out of fear, shame, despair, and that's draining. That's life draining, right?
Yeah.
So huge difference there in those two. But like I said, as important as fellowship is with other Christians, solitude is just as important because it is that one-on-one time with you and God. And it's also that time for you to just kind of disassociate for a little bit. Like I said, not demonizing playing video games or watching a TV show. Like those things are also important because we also have hobbies and God created us to be interested in things like that. But when it starts to overcome us and it becomes like a problem, like me, I struggle heavily with video games. I spent, and that seems kind of silly to some people because especially if you don't struggle with something like alcohol or drugs or video games, right? People just don't take it as seriously because they don't struggle with something like that. I would spend hours playing video games. Like when I was a teenager, I mean, I would wake up from a long night of video games at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then play until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I would stop to eat and stuff, but that's what I filled a lot of my time with. Not all of it, but a majority of it. And now, even as an adult, like I've got my whole family, and I'll find myself, I hardly play video games anymore, right? Like, not only because I don't have time, but because I know that it can be a problem, right? And so what I'll do is I'll play for maybe an hour or two, and then I shut it off, and then I probably won't play for another 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it works. But I know that that's an issue for me, so I avoid that, right? But that's how I find myself getting isolated, right? I isolate myself, and then if I sit and play video games for 6 hours after I come out of that comatose, right? Like I feel like crap. I feel physically tired. I feel mentally drained. There's just a lot that comes with that. But
100%. Like I mean, I think everybody has that one thing, regardless of or they have or did or whatever. Wherever stage of life you're in on that. Whether you're in that or you've kind of come out of it. And like you said, you have to be so watchful of that. Even if you have to tell, like, I know that somebody, it was one of the pastors here, at my church. He said that like his wife, like I think he had to deal with like some like sexual sin and stuff. Like he knew that his wife knew that he did not need to see that, and so she would turn off the TV and stuff like that, helping him avoid that stuff. Like it goes back to the accountability side of things like that, and and also that was like that was like really cool to hear. It's like praise God for a godly woman helping her husband avoid that stuff when he didn't know it was there, or and she knows that he don't need to see it. Like
that's huge.
That's so good. Like I mean, because and who knows, like and it's also too, it's like that's cool that she understands that, like that was a problem or is or whatever, and it's she doesn't like fault him for it, but knows it's an issue. And that's also a big thing, like especially because we were I was talking with my accountability partner. We were talking about all the things that, like, when we get married and stuff, like, we're gonna have to have these hard talks before we even think about marrying whoever we're gonna marry, right? And like we were talking about it, and he was like, yeah, there's some stuff that like we had to I had to tell her, like, after we started dating, whatever, and all that. And I won't get into it for privacy reasons, but he was like, but you have that, you have that opportunity because you've not dated anybody. You have that opportunity to tell whoever that's going to be, like, you dealt with these things, and you can start off on the right foot and not, start your relationship with a lie. It's built off of truth because you were upfront about what you've dealt with and what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's so important. I think just in not even just relationships and friendships too. You can't like don't be lying. Don't be lying. Like I say it kind of in a joking way, but don't lie.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's just not. And that's one thing that I'm still wrapping my head around. I know that me and a friend we did we did a deep dive on temptations, and one of them was lying, right?
Mhm.
And like still trying to wrap my head around that one. Like I understand, it just happens sometimes. But like when you get to the compulsive side of it, like that's one thing that I'm still trying to figure out, like in my head, like why you would go that direction, like why you would compulsively lie when it makes no sense. Like, you got some people get to the point where they lied about what they had for dinner. It's like it,
Well,
it just,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. You're good. I was done.
Well, and what I was going to say was that's a huge thing, being honest in a relationship like that, right? Because if you don't admit you're struggling with things, and I'm not saying to just puke all over every single person, right? But the people that you have lots of relationships with that you do trust and have that accountability with, right? If you hold things back, they can't help you. They don't know what they don't know. And so if you're hiding stuff, and you're not being completely upfront when you need help, nobody can help you. Just like that, you said that pastor, right? His wife shuts off the TV.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't share that with her, she wouldn't know that, so she wouldn't think twice about it. And so now he's sitting there and lost in his own head and struggling with his sin because he hasn't shared it with anybody, right?
Right.
And so it's so important. And not only does it allow them to help you, but it builds that relationship even more and that trust even more between each other because you've shared something with them, they can help you, and now you trust them because they do help you. It's important to be honest. I just wanted to add to your point there about the honesty.
Yeah, 100%. And, going back to the accountability for a second, so I got to add it in there. Like, because like I said, I had a few different, people that, we were trying to see if it would work. And like, so I can't stress enough how the importance of having somebody that's in your area, for one thing, like that's near you and is physically, like you can physically go talk to them if need be. Because I was trying to have accountability with my cousin who is a missionary, but he's a missionary in Honduras, which it was a great opportunity. It's great. But the only problem is I can only talk to him like on the phone or, through FaceTime, whatever. I could never physically go there unless I flew, you know, and I just, and plus we couldn't be as consistent because, he was off doing this and like, different times, all this, and so I told him, I said, thank you for your help, but I need somebody that's physically here. And so that's when I, prayed about the other one and, God gave him to me. But, and that's another thing is like, it may not be something that people think about that much. Like, oh, I could have one like an hour away. Unless you want to drive an hour, or like if you're really dealing with something, have that accountability close, I can't stress that enough. You really need that close and somebody that, that you can rely on to, and because one of the things that I think I did have an issue with was saying like I was only the one pulling the weight, I guess, it was just response times. Like I know, like for texting, right? Like I know, like I get it. Like you're not going to be like me and respond to every single text right when you get it. That's fine. Like I'm totally good with that. But like if it's something like in terms of, hey, like are we going to talk or whatever, like this week or whatever, you need that consistency to keep it up, and so, and it's part of that commitment. Like I said earlier, you need that commitment, from both sides.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing though. Like if somebody's like, hey, I need to talk, and you actually just don't have time at that moment to sit down and talk to somebody, you got to tell them like, hey, let's put a pause on this. I really want to talk with you about this. Give me an hour, give me 2 hours. Let me get some time blocked off. Because, some people do have, crazy schedules, right? Like maybe they have kids or maybe they play sports or, whatever, right? Like they have things going on, but like for that person, like, hey, give me a little bit and I promise you we'll talk about this. Just give me a few minutes or give me an hour, right? Yeah. But like, and then when you say, hey, give me an hour and then you have that time blocked off, you got to be intentional with it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do what you're going to say. And so that's an important piece too in building that relationship and that trust. So
100%. Man, that's all I have. But I mean, do you think before I close, you could pray us out?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Let me say
all right.
real quick, just to kind of
Go ahead.
add points and just kind of
Yeah. Go ahead.
finish off. Just steps to practice with this isolation thing, right? Stay plugged into a local church. Don't just
Good.
attend. Get involved, right? Get involved with groups. Get involved with other people. Build smaller, intentional relationships, Bible studies, accountability partners, prayer groups, right? Just keep all these things in mind. Another one is serve others. We didn't really talk about this, but I'll throw this point in there real quick. Serving often breaks isolation by shifting focus outward. So that's an important piece too. And then be honest. Admit when you're struggling instead of hiding it. So big things.
100%. Yes, sir. It is.
All right. We'll go ahead and pray out. Lord, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk on here. I thank you for this platform, and I thank you for our relationship, mine and Charlie. I pray that anybody who listens to this episode, I pray that you've encouraged them. I pray you've strengthened them, give them courage, give them hope, and knowing that there's better. It's better out there on the outside around people. Instead of locked inside themselves and in their own isolation. God, I pray that you give them the strength and the courage to go out and foster relationships, to serve others, to seek you, and to grow in that aspect. I pray that, me and Charlie can do this again. And I pray that you bless his ministry. I thank you for it. He's doing amazing things through you. So in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
With another episode of the Young Minds Podcast coming to a close, I just want to remind you that you are never alone and faith is action. So let's get out there.